So let's start the discussion today with the implementation of K-means algorithm. Whatever was necessary regarding distance-based clustering and regarding K-means algorithm, right? The theory part we already discussed. The concept regarding K-means algorithm we have already seen that. So let me go to Jupyter Notebook and let me explain you the implementation of K-means algorithm. So yes, these are all the things which we have seen till now. So what is clustering? The goal of clustering, applications of clustering, we talked about requirements of clustering algorithm. These are the main requirements of any clustering algorithm. Or these are the properties one should that particular algorithm should have if it's a clustering algorithm. Approaches we talked about. I told you that you should remember these names: agglomerate approach and DBG approach. And then we started with the k-means clustering algorithm. So in that case, I talked about theory part. This is the mathematical notations for k-means algorithm, right? And here we talked about something called as elbow method. So elbow method, definitely we'll talk about elbow method today itself, right? And then we'll be in a position to understand these equations, whatever you are able to see here. So what is the actual meaning of this particular equation? You will be able to make a sense about it once you understand what is elbow method. So I'm talking about this particular thing. Elbow method is the method which can be used to find out the value of k in k-means. Right. So from the start itself, I was talking about that. I was talking that okay, you should not worry about the k value, and I told you that it should be given by the user, right? So yes, elbow method is the one which is going to help us to find out the k value. How? That's what we are going to talk about. So this is what we have seen in the last session. We talked about all the steps of k-means algorithm, and diagrammatically we talked about k-means algorithm like this. So initially data is given to us. We will go and we will try to find out the centroids. So in this figure, whatever is in red color which you are able to see, all these are the centroids which are randomly selected, and from those centroids we are going to find out the distances, all the points, right? And the data points which are nearer to a particular centroid, according to that we were dividing, we were trying to keep that particular point in a particular cluster. So as we were having four data points, four centroids, 1, 2, 3, and 4. So obviously we gonna get we are going to get the we are going to get same number of clusters like that, or four clusters here, right? So we need to repeat this step again and again till the centroid stops changing. So you can see that in as we discussed yesterday, these are the initial positions. The black points are the initial positions of the centroids, and the red points are the new positions of the centroids. So this step is going to be repeated again and again till the positions of the centroid stop changing. Right? So like this, we have talked about it, and finally we got these four clusters. Right? So this is the first cluster, this is the second cluster, suppose this one the third, and this one is the fourth cluster. So this is how we actually see the working of k-means algorithm. And whatever the code, see this code, whatever you are able to see here, this is just to plot those kind of diagrams. It has nothing to do with the algorithm implementation. Okay, implementation of the k-means algorithm that we will be talking about today itself. So don't worry about this code, whatever you are able to see, just try to focus on the diagrams just to understand the working of k-means algorithm. Okay, so these are the four clusters which we got finally. Okay, now let's start our discussion with this elbow method. So as I was talking that okay, k value given by user, and when we initially talked about k-means algorithm, at that time we selected the value of k randomly, right? But here what's going to happen is that k value should be optimal k value. So how are we going to make sure that that k value is going to be optimal? And that's where this elbow method is going to come into picture. Let me go through this particular paragraph first. So see, elbow method is based on relationship between within cluster sum of square distances. So we need to check, we need to find out what is this within cluster sum of square distances, or we call it as WCSS, within cluster sum of squared distances. Or another name for within cluster sum of squared distances is inertia, right? So this elbow method is a relationship between inertia and number of clusters. That is inertia and k. Okay. So it is observed that first with increase in the number of clusters, WCSS decreases steeply, and then after a certain number of clusters, the drop in WCSS is not that prominent. Okay, so what's going to happen is here again, while implementing, even if you do not draw a graph like this, still you will be able to find out the optimum value of k. Let me tell you, but in the background, these are the things which are going to happen. See, elbow method, as we want to decide the value of k, as we want to decide about the value of k. So for that, this is going to help us. Right? That is the purpose why we are talking about elbow method. And elbow method is nothing but what? It's a relationship. It's a relationship between two values, right? So the first one is number of clusters. Suppose on x-axis I have number of clusters, and on y-axis we have something called as WCSS, or another name for this one is inertia. Okay, so within cluster sum of square, within cluster sum of square, okay, or inertia it is called. Now what happens is, suppose k, so this is nothing but what? Possible values of k. So k value can be 1, that is one cluster. It can be 2, it can be 3, it can be 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So what generally we do is, we do not pass only one value, right? To decide about the value of k, we do not directly select only one value. We pass range of values. Okay, we pass range of values, and whatever is the best value out of that, that value will be selected as k value. But the question is how to select the best value. So this WCSS is going to come into picture. What is WCSS? See, suppose this is your original data set, right? This is the data set which you have initiated. And obviously, in this data you have number of data points. So a lot of data points are there. Now our target is what? Our target is to apply K-means algorithm to this particular data, this original data. Now to apply K-means algorithm, obviously we need to pass the value of k. So that's why what we will do, we will try to find out the value of k first. So for that, first thing we do is we find out value of k with WCSS. So WCSS, I will find out different values. I will find out WCSS1, that is within cluster sum of squared 1. It means, see, initially this is your data, it means that the whole data is one cluster. Whole data belongs to one cluster only. So we find out within cluster sum of square distances in that particular cluster. It means, see, it within cluster, the name itself suggests you. The name itself tells you what it is. See, WCSS is what? Within cluster. That means initially the whole data is in one cluster. So within cluster, sum of squared distances, right? So sum of square within cluster sum of square distance. This is nothing but WCSS. It means within this cluster we are going to find out the distances of all the points, and then we are going to take the square of that, and then we are going to take the sum of it. Right. So if it is only one cluster, for one cluster, sum of the squares of the distances, whatever we are going to get, that value will be represented by WCSS1. After that, what? After that, suppose if we divide, obviously in this case, in WCSS1, obviously your centroid will be only one. Any random point, it will be a centroid, only one centroid will be there. Right? What if, so in this case, this is for k value 1. Then for k value equal to 2, what is going to happen? That means you can imagine this data set divided into two clusters. That means same data will be in two clusters now, right? In two clusters like this. So for this one also we are going to find out WCSS2. So WCSS for this plus WCSS for this is going to give you WCSS for WCSS2. Obviously, see, it has been seen that within cluster sum of square distances for big cluster, for one cluster is always higher. Then it is going to be lower and lower and lower and so on. After that, for k value 3, again we are going to find out WCSS. So I will just save the value in WCSS3. Again WCSS4. Again WCSS5 and so on. So in our case till WCSS8. Suppose as this y-axis is showing you all the values of WCSS, that is within cluster sum of square distances, right? Suppose the value of WCSS1. So 1, 2, obviously there will be some numbers here. Okay, so it has been seen that the WCSS value for the original cluster is always high. Suppose this one. Then it decreases steeply. That means it decreases very fast for suppose next value. And then again it decreases. And then again it decreases. And then after some point, maybe the decrease in the value is very, very less. So for this 6, 7, something like this. Now you can see that now for value of k equal to 1, this is the WCSS value. For value of k equal to 2, this is WCSS value. For value of k equal to 3, this is WCSS value. For value k equal to 4, this is WCSS value, and so on. Now the question is, out of all these values, which value one should select as a k value? So for that, you need to check after which value the change in the WCSS is not rapid. I mean to say, see, for k equal to 1, WCSS is here, and for k equal to 2, WCSS is here. So the change is very high. After that, for the next value, yes, change is somewhat low. After that, yes, it is again low. And after this point, the change is not that much steep. It is not that much rapid. It is very, very negligible. So we need to find out such a point after which the change in the WCSS value is not that much rapid. So in this case, you can go for the value of k as 4 or maybe as 5. Why? I will again repeat. Because after 4 or 5, you can see that the change in the WCSS value is not that much steep, or is not that much rapid. Are you people getting this? That's why one can go for k equal to 4 or maybe k equal to 5 in this case. This is what elbow method is. This is the basic idea behind elbow method. Any doubt, anyone? Are you people able to understand what is elbow method, how it works? Again, see, it is not going to give us the exact value of k. It will give you at least good idea about the value of k. So maybe someone will go for k equal to 3 or 4 or 5, but someone will not go for k equal to 1 or 2, right? So maybe in this case, we can see that after k equal to 4, the change in the WCSS is not that much rapid. Let me see. In this case, it was very rapid, but then lower and then lower, and then after k equal to 4 or maybe 3 or 5, you can see that the change is not that much rapid. This distance is very, very low. And that's why we will go for maybe k equal to 4, or some people will go for k equal to 5 by looking at this particular diagram. And why it is called as elbow? Because the shape of this particular thing, you can see that it's like an elbow. This is like an elbow, and that's what the name, elbow method. That is the only thing, right? And maybe if I want to go one step further, if I want to tell you, what if, see, this is going to give the value of k not at running time, right? But what if I want to find out the value of k at runtime? That is possible. And for that, in real time, what do we do is we make use of something called as need. Need is a library which is available in Python. What need library does is, need library gives you the value of k at runtime. But the logic is this, which is followed by elbow method. So maybe in the code, what I'll be doing is I will apply the elbow method. I will get the value of k from the elbow graph, this graph, and then I will make use of that value in k means method. There I will write down k equal to suppose 4 and other arguments, and then I will train the model. This is what is going to happen. This is what I am going to show. Okay, sir, between 7 and 8 also almost has no change. So why can't we take k equal to 7 or 8? So see, in this particular diagram, Sharon, what I am talking about is you need to go for such a value of k after which the change in the WCSS is not that much rapid. Are you getting my point? It is not that much rapid. So what is that point after the change in the value of WCSS is slowed down drastically? See, earlier it was very high, then very low, and then maybe after 3, 4, or 5, you can see that the change is not that much rapid. Even people can go for 6, 7, 8, but you can see that as per elbow method, what it tells, that you need to go for such a point after which you can find out the change is not that much rapid. So you can go for 3 or 4 or 5, maybe 6, right? But it looks like the change is not that much steep or rapid after 3 or 4 or maybe 5. So in this case, maybe because of this diagram, it might be looking, it might not be looking that much clear, but I will show you the same diagram in IPY and V5 in the notes, and then you will be able to understand it more clearly. Right? So it's 6, 7 already is all. It's not wrong. I'm not saying that it is wrong, right? But just try to understand, right? The change in the WCSS. After which point it is not that much rapid, maybe 3 or 4 or 5, right? That's how you can select. And again, even though I'll be showing you all these things manually first, but remember there is something called as need. Need library is the thing which we make use of in projects to calculate the value of k. To calculate the value of k at runtime. At least remember the name of this library. Okay. Now let me show you. Let me show you in the IPY file. See. Now let us go through this particular explanation once again. This method is based, elbow method is based on relationship between within cluster sum of square distances and number of clusters. Right? A equal to 1, 2, 3, 4. So see, here also it is shown as 8. It can be 10, 20, whatever you want. Okay. It is observed that first with an increase in the number of clusters, WCSS decreases steeply. And then after a certain number of clusters, the drop in the WCSS is not that prominent or that rapid. The point after which the graph between WCSS and the number of clusters become comparatively smoother. The point after which the graph between WCSS and number of clusters becomes comparatively smoother is termed as elbow, right? Is termed as elbow, and the number of clusters at that point are the optimum number of clusters. As even after increasing the clusters after that point, the variation is not decreasing by much. That is, we have accounted for almost all the dissimilarity in the data. And elbow curve looks like this. See, so in this case, so just take it. This is the elbow, right? This is the elbow shape. So maybe in this case you can go for 4 or maybe 5 even, but 4 looks better. Where are you getting the elbow shape? So this is the point where you are getting the elbow shape for this. Or even you can go it like this. See, WCSS value was like this. It was very high. And then for k equal to 3, again it is the change is very rapid. Again the change is very rapid. But after this point, the change, you just check, the change is not that much rapid. So this is the starting point after which the change is not that much rapid. That's why I will go for k equal to 2. I'm not saying that if someone goes for k equal to 5, he is wrong. No, absolutely not. But the optimum value which we can get here with the help of elbow method is 4, at least by looking at this particular diagram. This is the elbow method. This is called as elbow method. So there can be some questions based on elbow method even in your exam. Okay. What is inertia? Inertia is nothing but within cluster sum of square distances. Remember this. Okay. What is elbow method? What is elbow? It's a relationship between inertia and number of clusters. That is K. So remember these basic points about elbow method. Elbow method helps you to get the optimum value of K. I hope it's clear to everyone. Okay. Now let's move forward and try to see how to create the clusters for the given data set. So in the last session, I have talked about a data set, right? Let me show you the data set once again. So these are the files which I have included in Jupyter. So here you can see there is a data set that is mall underscore customers. I think I have shown you this particular data set in the last session. Right? It's a CSV file. Now let me show you the CSV file once again, and let's try to create a model which will be a clustering model, right? And then go and then you will see how to train the clustering model and based on this particular data set. So here you can check we have certain features, right? So what do we have? We have customer ID, gender, customer ID 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and so on. Gender, male, female. Age is given, annual income of the person is given, and spending score. Now see, uh, what is this spending score actually telling you? So depending on how people spend, how people spend money, right? Maybe People will go for shopping, right? Maybe people will go for mm, buying the things which are cheap, or maybe the things which are very very costly, right? So here try to understand what is this particular thing. Spending score is dependent on, actually we can see that spending score is on the scale of 1 to 100, and it depends on annual income, right? So what we want to do is, here we are not aware about in how many groups this particular data can be divided, in how many clusters this data can be divided. Customer ID, gender, male, female, age, annual income, and spending score. This is what is given to us. Now, as we want to do clustering, right? That means depending on all these features, we want to divide this particular data into different groups. But in how many groups this data can be divided, we do not have any idea. That means we are not aware about the output. Are you getting my point? That means we are not aware about the output, and that's why it's a clustering problem. That means we can go for unsupervised learning approach. So, for example, maybe suppose there is some marketing campaign going on. Let's take an example. This example is related to that one. Suppose there is some marketing campaign going on. Now, in that, there are different people, right? So suppose maybe person P1 will go for purchasing the product of maybe price 20, suppose 20 rupees. So maybe person 2 will go for purchasing the products maybe of price 500 rupees, right? And so on, like this, depending on their capability, depending on the money they have, people can go for buying different products, maybe costly or maybe cheap products, right? So here, in case of marketing, in case of marketing campaign, they always look out for target customers, right? So they always look out for target customers. Now they will go and they so for that they want different groups of customers. So the people who always go for cheap products, there will be one group for those. People who will go for moderate amount, another group. People who will go for costly products, there will be another group, and so on. Right? Suppose this is the category of the people who go for cheap product, right? That means the people who are going to buy the products maybe of price 20, right? So here the company can target, everyone, because even a rich person can buy a product which is not that much costly, right? Suppose here in this case, target people, who will be the target people in this case? So for example, the people whose income is more, those will be the target people whose income is more, and whose expenditure is more. I can say income is more and expenditure is more. So obviously, those are the targeted people here for this kind of group, right? But the thing is that you might be knowing that. See, it's not like that only the people. See, anyone, even more people can go for buying the products which are costly. It's not like that only the people whose income is more, they will only go for higher expenditure. No, because due to something called like we have a lot of facilities now, right? Suppose due to credit card, some people have high capability to spend through their income. So see, suppose even though if someone's income is not that much high, but still they can spend more. Still they can spend more, right? Why? So they can have a credit card, they can go and they can shop, right? So yes, that's also a possibility. So there might be a people, even though their income is low, but still they will go for higher, they will spend more money. That's also possible. Okay, so what happens is, as we want to come up with different clusters, so we want to find out how many clusters are possible, how many types of people are going to be there, how many groups are going to be there for depending on all these things. Even though, see, spending score is higher, but it's not like that their income might be high. See, 15 is the income, spending score is 39. 15 is the income, spending score is 81. Even though the income is less for this first person, but the spending score, see, income is less for this person, but the spending score is 81. You can check it. So because of this kind of thing, credit cards, right? So what happens is, if these are your data points, right? Suppose this is your complete data set. Now we need to come up with the clusters. We need to come up with the groups so that it will be easy for companies to target particular customers depending on their purchasing pattern. Right. So maybe you can go and you can divide the data into two parts, for example, the way we had a little case of linear regression, right? But linear regression might not be sufficient here. You need to come up with some other criteria, some other lines, for example. So maybe suppose this is L1, this is L2. You need to come up with this kind of line, which will help you to create the groups, right? So try to understand this particular data set which is given to us. In this data set, we have all these columns, right? We have customer ID, gender, age, annual income, and spending score. So it's not like that the people who is having more annual income, whose annual income is higher, their spending score will be higher. It's not like that. Even the people whose annual income is not high, but still their spending score is high. So maybe because of the facilities like credit card. So we need to depend on all the values here, right? So for that, so our target is what now? Our target is to find out in how many groups you can divide this particular data set. Whether 5 groups, 6 groups, 7 groups, or what? So if it is 5 groups, that means you will be getting cluster 1, cluster 2, cluster 3, cluster 4, cluster 5. K0, K1, K2, K3. So maybe 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, something like that. So these are the 5 clusters or groups in which this data can be divided. So we need to find out. So what we will be doing is, from this particular data set, some data we will take as training data. Depending on that, we will create a model with the help of K-means algorithm. And to that model, the remaining data we are going to pass as a testing data. And for that data, it is going to give us the output. Okay, the first record belongs to 0th cluster. Second record belongs to 3rd cluster, and so on. This is what we are going to do. Okay, so I hope everyone got an idea about the data set which is available here. Now I will go to Jupyter Notebook and I will try to explain the implementation of K-means algorithm. Right? So as usual, we are going to import all the necessary packages here. Import pandas, numpy, matplotlib, right? So pandas, we will make use of pandas because we want to fetch the CSV file. We want to import the CSV file. Numpy, we are going to make use of that because we are going to use of some methods. Matplotlib for visualization. Or maybe if needed, we will make use of something called as Seaborn package. So here you can see the next step is mall underscore customers.csv. What is this? This is the file which is in the current directory. This one, mall underscore customers.csv, which I right now shown to you. Right. So and even we have checked that I think we have more than 200 number of records in our file. Right. So CSV file is imported in this particular variable. So data set, this data set variable is going to be what? It is going to be a data frame now. Now, what am I going to do is I am going to divide that particular data set into this. You can check it. X. Now, why are we doing it? See, X is equal to data set ILOC. Now, what is ILOC? ILOC stands for index location. If you people remember pandas, in pandas we have already seen this, right? So ILOC means index location. So what is the meaning of this? Colon 3 colon. Colon 3 colon means what? That means all the rows. See, try to understand. This first colon corresponds to, it is talking about number of rows. That means all the rows. Only colon is all the rows. And this is what? This is about columns. As I have shown you the data set, right? In our data set, what types of columns we have? So let me go and let me try to show it to you once again. So we have customer ID. See, customer ID is never going to contribute to anything, right? Or cluster number or something like that. So see, customer ID is not of any use for us. Genuine again is of no use. Age, people might be of any age, customers might be of any age. Annual income and spending score. So depending on this, definitely we can go and we can try to divide the data into clusters. Kulbhushan, do you have any doubt? You are raising your hand. If yes, just let me know in the chat box. No problem. If you want me to unmute you, I will unmute you. Okay, Kulbhushan. I think you raised your hand. That's why I'm asking. Is it Kulbhushan or what? Yes, Kulbhushan Bose. So customer ID, genuine age. This is not going to be important for us. So our focus will be on this one. So that's why what are we doing is just try to understand. We are just trying to delete, or we are just not trying to consider the features which are not necessary. So see, this is 0, this is 1, this is 2, and this is 3. So 3 onwards everything. That means this column and this column we are going to consider. That's why what we have done is colon comma 3 colon. That means all the rows and 3 onwards everything. That means this column and this column. Indexing, right? That's what we have seen in case of Python. So let me show you how many number of rows are here. So yes, 200 rows are here, right? So that's what we have done. What are we doing here? After importing the CSV file, from that CSV file we are considering all rows and only 2 columns: annual income in $1,000 and spending score, and we are assigning it to X. So you can check it. X is showing annual income and spending score. So 200 rows and 2 columns. After that, what? After that, as we want to find out the value of K, so what am I doing is, see, from sklearn.cluster import k-means. This is how you can import k-means method. Now WCSS, I told you, within cluster sum of square. So we want to find out the WCSS value for each value of K. That's why what are we going to do is, we are going to declare empty list is equal to WCSS, or WCSS is equal to this empty list. That means there is nothing in WCSS initially. After that, what? Range function you people are already aware about. Range 1 comma 11, what do you mean by this? It means 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10, right? So what am I doing is, for I in range of 1 comma 11, what are we doing? K means, this is the K means method. N underscore clusters is equal to I. See, I did not pass some fixed value of K here, number of clusters. What did I pass? I value, and I varies from 1 to 11. See, I varies from 1 to 11. Init is equal to K dash means plus plus. What is this K dash means plus plus? It is one of the flavors of K means algorithm, and most of the times we use K dash means plus plus only, right? So even though we make use of K means method, but we need to pass out one argument that is called as initialize argument, which is K dash means plus plus. There are other variants of K means algorithm also available, but we most of the times we make use of K dash means plus plus, which is K means only. Okay, so number of clusters I am passing as I, init method I am passing as K dash means plus plus, and random underscore state is equal to 42. What do you mean by this? This one we have already seen in case of training and testing split, right? That means it should take random records. After that, what am I doing? K means dot fit of X. What is X actually? X is nothing but what? Just now we have seen X is our input data. That is this one, our data set. And in our data set, we have annual income and spending score. So dot fit, if you people remember, whatever we discussed at the time of linear regression and support information, dot fit method means what? Dot fit means actual training. So training on the basis of X. So based on this particular data set, what am I doing is, I am trying to find out the WCSS value. WCSS initially is empty. What am I doing? WCSS dot append. If you people remember, what is WCSS here? WCSS is an empty list, and to a list there is a method called as dot append. So that's what I am doing. K means dot inertia underscore. What is this? What is inertia? Inertia is the thing but within cluster sum of squared distances. So K dot inertia underscore. This is going to find out within cluster sum of squared distances for k equal to 1, k equal to 2, k equal to 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And it is going to append all those values in this empty list. That means we are going to get WCSS values. How many WCSS values we are going to get? 10. Because we have k equal to 10 values. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. That's why we are going to get 10 WCSS values. Okay, random state we already discussed, Sharon. Random state is what actually it is going to take random records from your original data set. It is not going to read the records sequentially. 1, then 2, then 3, then 4. It will read 1. After that, it might read 200, 199, 132, 10, 99. That is what random state is. Random state equal to 42. It's not compulsory. It can be 1000, it can be 2, it can be 15, it can be 49. Anything. So it is just to read the data in random fashion. Why? Why to read the data in random fashion? Because we should get, or the algorithm should get the overall idea about the data set. Right? Yes. So this one you might have seen in case of train test. Okay, so WCSS append. So what is going to be there in WCSS? All the within cluster sum of squared distances values for all the 10 values of k. And after that, what are we doing? We are plotting the graph between value of k, that is 1 to 10, and WCSS. And this is just nothing but a title and label, x label, y label. So title is elbow method, label is number of clusters, x label is number of clusters, y label is WCSS. The TLT.show is going to be the graph. Finally, we got the graph like this. And that is nothing but elbow method. This is what we have done. Okay, elbow method. Still, we have not applied k-means algorithm. So, see, for value of k equal to 1, WCSS is very high. For k equal to 3, suppose, WCSS is here. For k equal to 4, it is here. For k equal to 5, WCSS is here. And after 5, if you check, the change in is not that much steep, or the change is not that much rapid. So maybe here we can go k for k equal to 5, or maybe k equal to 4 also. That's also possibility. It's not like that if you go for k equal to 4, it is not. No, you can go for k equal to 5 or k equal to 4. So you can look at this. It looks like elbow, and yes, you can check it all these values. So here the change after this point, basically after this k equal to 5, we can check the change is not that much steep, or it is not that much rapid. So yes, you can go for k equal to 5 or maybe 4 also, but 5 looks better. That's why we will go for k equal to 5, right? So that is how elbow method is going to help us to decide about the value of k. You can check on the x-axis what do we have, number of clusters. On the y-axis what do we have, within cluster sum of square, and that is nothing but elbow method. Okay, so remember this inertia or WCSS is one and the same. So once we got the value of k, now what am I doing is k means, now I am applying k-means algorithm and fitting it to the data set. So k-means equal to, this is the k-means method, number of clusters equal to 5. So from where I got k equal to 5? From this graph. I came to know that I should put value of k equal to 5 or maybe 4. Init equal to k-means plus was random state equal to 42. Y underscore k-means is equal to k-means dot fit underscore predict of x. So this is actually k-means dot fit underscore predict of x. So it is going to do what? This is nothing but the prediction. Right? This is the prediction according to or prediction or clustering according to our model. So see, what is the name of our model? K-means, or the result is K-means. Right? So we said 5 clusters. What are we doing here? So K-means dot fit underscore predict for x. In x, how many records are there? 200 number of records. Right? So we are, what are we doing? So whatever we got, whatever the K-means we got, with the help of that we are just trying to see in which cluster the first record is, in which cluster the second record is, and so on. So as we have given 5 clusters, 5 clusters means what? 5 clusters means 0, 1, 2, 3, and 4. So this is your first cluster, second cluster. So all these are clusters. right? So now this data will be divided into 5 clusters because value of k we got as 5. Now you can say first record belongs to fourth cluster, second record belongs to zeroth cluster, or third cluster zeroth cluster, third record belongs to third cluster, fourth record belongs to zeroth cluster, fifth record belongs to third cluster, and so on. Last record belongs to second cluster. You can check the values will be 0, 1, 2, 3, 4 only. So these are the number of clusters. Try to understand. This is what our result is. So this is for obviously this is for the complete data set. We can go and we can even pass a testing data set. See, 5 clusters we passed. So our data set is divided into 5 clusters now. 0 to 4. After that, if I go and if I try to check, so np.array 3 comma 3. So I want to check to which cluster this particular data set belongs. Okay, so kmeans.predict np.asArray. AsArray is nothing but it is going to consider it as an array. So asArray 3 comma 3. So this is actually a method which we make use of in NumPy. So now we want to check this data set belongs to which cluster. So it is going to tell us test of 0 belongs to second cluster. Right? So it is like what we do in case of testing data. So here we are just trying to test our model. So yes, it has given us the result for unseen data. That is, it belongs to second cluster. Now to save the model, what we can do? So as usual, we can import pickle package. File name equal to we will create a string called as import underscore model.pickle. Pickle.dump. What is the name of my model? K-means. So I am opening a file with the name file name, that is this one, and I am opening it, that particular file in write and binary mode as in executable. Right, now those people who try to execute the previous code which I have shared with you, you will get what is this? You people will get what is this? Or those people who try to practice NumPy and all those things, you will get what is this? Obviously, you need to go and you need to spend some time on that. Even I have already shown you how to create the model, right? When we have seen the deployment also. So those people who have executed all these things, definitely it will be easy for them. But those who even those people who haven't even tried out at least once, obviously you will have to go and you will have to check it. Okay, you will have to execute each and everything, whatever I have shared earlier. Okay? This is for those people who want to really go and understand the things. So people like see here you can check pickle package we can make use of. Dump is nothing but we need to write down something. So I want to write down the model in this file. I want to save it in the write and binary mode. And that's what we have done, right? So suppose, so this is my model. Now suppose if you want to look out at the records which belong to zeroth cluster, what you can do is y underscore k is equal to 0 from x. So this is nothing but what? X is an array, right? It's an array. So x of y underscore k is equal to 0. So it is going to show you all the records which belong to zeroth cluster, right? And if you want to go and if you want to plot the things, definitely you can make use of scatter plot. So what we are doing here, what we are done here is plt.scatter. So the points which belong to zeroth cluster, the points which belongs to first cluster, second cluster, third cluster, and fourth cluster. For that, what we have done is see plt.scatter is a method. In this method, you have a lot of arguments. This is the method which is available in matplotlib package. Okay, those who try to make use of matplotlib will get. We are doing very simple thing here. I'm passing the data to it. Okay, and S is nothing but size, C is nothing but color, and label is the label which we want to give to that particular cluster. So why are we trying to write down the code like this? We just want to represent the cluster data. Same data, but with clusters, so that it will be easy to visualize. Okay, and then we are going to plot plt.scatter. K means what? Cluster underscore centers. Centers are nothing but the centroids. Okay, so this particular method gives us centroids, that is mean values. Okay, so you can check it again, size, color, label. So our centroids are going to be colored with yellow color, and label is going to be centroid color. So this is actually a method which gives us centroids. Then title, X label, Y label. Legend is nothing but maybe at one corner it is going to show us colors and their meaning. Okay, so this particular code, whatever you are able to see, it is just written to get something like this. What is this? So this is our data set, original data set, but this time it is divided into different clusters. So you can check spending score and annual income, right? So the people whose spending score whose spending score is 20 or maybe suppose 10 to 40, they belong to this kind of a group. Sorry, the people whose income is between 10 to 40 and whose spending score is between 0 to 40. See, the people whose annual income is between 10 to 40, for example, 10 to 40, and whose spending score is between 0 to 40, they belong to this cluster, that is cluster 4, right? Suppose this blue one, the people whose annual income is between 40 to suppose 80 and whose spending score is 40 to 60, they belong to cluster 2. Similarly, suppose red, the people whose spending score is between 0 to 40, sorry, the people whose annual income is between 0 to 40 but whose spending score is very high. See, income is low, spending score is high. So which category of people? That means they must be using credit cards. So those people are shown with red colors. That means cluster 1. Green, you can check green, cluster 3. So green people are like what? Whose spending score is between 60 to suppose 100 or 120. So sorry, whose annual income is 60 to 120. That is high income and high spending. So see, if I want to just clear all the things, you can check. Yellow points are our centroids. Pink color you check. Pink cluster. What can you say about these people whose income is high, right? But spending is low. We can check this pink color. That means they are somewhat reserved. They think a lot about saving. Spending is high, so income is high, but spending is low. These are the people who are shown with pink color. You can check this cluster 4. In case of cluster 4, you can say that their income is low and spending is also low, right? So these are the people. What about cluster 3, green? So in case of that, you can check income is high and spending is also high. They earn more, they spend more. Blue color, cluster 2, you can check it. Their income is moderate. Their income is moderate. And their spending is also moderate. Blue color. Red color you can check. Their income is very low. See, red color, income is very low. But spending is very high. Right? That means maybe they are using credit card. So this is what the cluster means. With the help of K-means algorithm. Right? Again, as I told you that it is not like that there is only K-means algorithm, there are other algorithms also, like DBScan, but yes, they are not mentioned in the syllabus. Right? So here I have shown custom centered initialization and all these things. Even if you are not aware about all these things, no problem. Right? Maybe you don't have to go into much detail as these are not the things which are mentioned in the syllabus. But yeah, those who are interested, maybe once you get these files, you can refer this. Okay. Talking about challenges and improvements in K-means. Let's go through this. So we need to specify number of clusters beforehand. This is one challenge. It is required to run the algorithm multiple times to avoid suboptimal solution. K-means does not behave very well when the clusters have varying sizes. This is one problem in K-means, right? Different densities, something like that. The clusters sometimes vary based on initial choice of the centroids. So choosing the correct centroid is very important. Another important improvement of K-means algorithm was proposed by this person, Charles. So it keeps track of lower and upper bound of distances between instances and centroids. Right? And there is one variance of K-means that is called as mini batches. This is also good. Okay. This is also good. You can make use of that. We call it as mini batch K-means. What it does is it divides the data first and then applies K-means algorithm on that. That's the only thing it actually does. Okay. So, and yes, talking about remaining things, they are not mentioned in your syllabus. That's why I will not go and I will not discuss all these things. So, because there are other variants also, other variant also for k-means. For example, I talked about something called as DB-scan algorithm. DB-scan algorithm is also a good algorithm for clustering, density-based spatial clustering of applications with noise. Those people who are interested, definitely you can go and you can refer my YouTube channel. Actually, I already explained theory part about DB-scan algorithm on my YouTube channel. If you are really interested to understand DB-scan also, and even LBO method and all those things also, I have already explained with a real good example. Okay? That also you can check if you are interested. So implementation of DB-scan is shown here, but yeah, don't worry about that. K-means was the only part which was there in the syllabus, and that's why that is the thing which we have discussed here. Okay, so these are the things which I wanted to discuss about today. We are done with K-means algorithm. Maybe in the next class we will start with other algorithm according to the syllabus. Okay, so we will stop here for today and we will go to the next. You can start sending your numbers and notes.